Hey guys, tonight we slip into the warm hush of Nubia, a place where night can sing you lullabies if you let it. Here, on the banks of the Nile, a faint breeze brushes your arms and candle flames ripple in the gathering dusk. You stand barefoot on the cool sand, reeds clicking behind you like dry applause, while families gather to launch tiny floating lanterns onto the broad, quiet river. The world smells of water and wax, and under a sky pricked with unfamiliar stars, you feel history swirling around your ankles. But fair warning, you probably won't survive this. If you tried to swim the Nile right now, crocodiles would turn you into an hors d'oeuvre faster than you could say ancient Nubia. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is, so drop that in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge forward, hearing a distant drumbeat in the gathering gloom. The Nile at twilight becomes a mirror, catching each glimmer of fire as if eager to double it. People arrive in waves, bringing simple bundles, small candles, carefully shaped reeds, and the fragrant flower petals of the blue lotus. It's no carnival chaos, more a hush, a collective quiet that feels reverent and a bit eerie. Your feet press into the damp bank, the silt cool and sticky, while above you birds slip homeward in black streaks across the red-amber sky. Families gather near priests dressed in bleached linen robes, pale enough to catch the fading light. The priests hold carved wooden scepters, topped with symbols of river gods you only half recognize. They raise their arms and begin the slow chants, voices threading through the night air, thin yet strong enough to steady everyone's breathing. It's hypnotic, and historians still argue whether these chants originated strictly for religious ceremony, or if they also worked as practical warnings to keep Nile traders from drifting too close to sacred shores. You edge closer. A grandmother carefully sets a candle raft on the river, and you see her lips moving with a private wish. Maybe she prays for rain, or for a good harvest, or for the family's children to come home safely. Or maybe, in a twist even modern cynics would appreciate, she's asking the river to wash away her son-in-law's bad gambling debts. There's a sense here that wishes are private currency, exchanged quietly, floated away to the water gods. And those water gods, they come in many flavors. Some say it is Hapi, the blue-skinned spirit of the Nile's bounty, who drinks in these candles like tiny shots of light. Others believe in far older river deities whose names have been lost to time, whose hunger still needs to be fed. A few even whisper about crocodile-headed monsters who might rise from the deep to collect offerings for themselves. The old stories hang around like uninvited guests at a backyard barbecue. No one quite believes, but no one dares ignore them either. You stand among children clutching little reed boats, all trying to hold their excitement in check. The grown-ups hush them, but each time a new candle is lit, the kids let out a little gasp, as if they'd never seen flame before. There's something powerful about seeing so many candles waiting to be sent away. Tiny messengers on a river that has carried prayers, dreams, and far too many broken hearts for millennia. A cold nose of night air brushes your cheek. You watch as the festival's first candle slides away from shore, bobbing on a bed of bundled reeds, flame still bright. The water cradles it, rocks it, then pulls it gently downstream. A sigh rises from the people, as if they'd all been holding their breath. You catch the glow reflected on their faces, old, young, worried, hopeful. Some look downright haunted, as though this little ritual might be the only thing keeping them tethered to hope. Nearby, a fisherman with a beard that seems to be woven out of Nile mud ties up his boat. He rests his calloused hands on his knees and watches the candles, eyes shining. Maybe he's remembering loved ones, or maybe he's calculating how soon he can sneak off to sip a homemade date wine. Nobody minds either way. The Nile Festival is equal parts devotion and personal break time. If you squint, you might even see a priest checking his neighbor's reed boat for craftsmanship, muttering, "That's going to tip over for sure." A quirky tidbit for you. Some villagers once believed that adding a single petal from a blue lotus to the candle raft would guarantee your wish had a direct line to the river gods. They'd trade those petals like precious coins, as if one flower could bribe a spirit into granting miracles. Whether that worked, well, historians still debate the results because no one ever collected receipts from the gods. Around you, the atmosphere shifts deeper into dusk. The colors go from gold to rust to bruised purple, and still the people keep coming. They step softly, carrying their own tiny fires, and you can almost smell the old wax, the tang of river weeds, and something faintly sweet, honey cakes waiting on a table in the distance. These honey cakes, by the way, make a repeat appearance later, so remember them for a callback when your stomach starts growling. A final chant ripples through the night air, like a sigh laid on top of a heartbeat. You realize the festival has begun in earnest. The Nile, broad and implacable, is about to collect all these fragile lights. And you, stuck in the middle of this hush, feel the pulse of thousands of years pressing in through every ripple of water. A second candle slips past your feet, its tiny flame braver than anything you've carried all week. You watch it vanish into the dusk, wondering what promise it's bearing and whether anyone on the other side of history will ever see its glow again. The candles slip farther out, drifting like a constellation, come loose from the night sky. You follow the small family with the grandmother, curiosity pulling you along as they move to a spot farther down the bank. There, they sit in a circle, tying together fresh bundles of reeds, layering them like miniature rafts for the next round of candle launches. The reeds, still damp and green, bend and creak under the weight of tiny clay saucers designed to hold the flame. Someone cracks a joke about the Nile's crocodiles using them as midnight snacks, and the kids squeal with half-horrified delight. These aren't just candles. Each one is a token of memory, a letter written in light. You watch a mother carefully brush oil over a tiny wick before setting it on its reed raft. Her son clutches at her sleeve, eyes wide, as he asks if it's truly going to find his grandfather's spirit. She tells him, in that calm, practiced voice, that the river knows how to find lost souls, that its currents are smarter than any priest or king, carrying messages to places humans can only dream of. And the boy, satisfied, lets her go. A cool breeze slides across your neck, tugging at the flames. The smell of wax mingles with the sharp, clean scent of crushed reeds. For just a second, you nearly believe the river can think, can feel, can even choose. Historians still argue whether these candle launches were strictly a festival of memory or a means to purify the living of guilt by transferring it to the water. Either way, those tiny fires glow with an eerie beauty, as if each one carries a final blessing or a final apology. The families keep building. Some have made elaborate rafts decorated with beads or even small figurines, trying to show off a bit, the way people today might flex with a luxury car. Others go simple, a rough knot of reeds and a pinch of incense. All of them hold one thing in common: the human need to remember. It might sound dramatic, but out here, the night is vast, the water even vaster, and you sense how easily one generation's name could vanish without these fragile ceremonies. Nearby, you see a group of older men chatting, their candles set neatly in a row. One pokes the other with a crooked finger, teasing him for carving a goddess on his reed raft. "Think she'll come dance for you?" He laughs, and the others erupt into low chuckles. There's always that layer of sarcasm under the sacred. People need to laugh, even while they fear the spirits might be listening. You step a bit closer to the water, careful not to slip on the muddy edge. A candle slides past you, its flame twisting, a little rebellious spark that refuses to go under. You wonder whose memory it's carrying: a soldier lost to war, a mother who died too young, The Nile has devoured so many stories that it seems hungry for new ones each festival night. And maybe, just maybe, these gentle offerings help soothe its appetite. A father nearby explains to his daughter that her candle will keep burning until the gods have heard her wish. She nods solemnly, though you catch a mischievous grin. She's probably wishing for more honey cakes. A little mainstream historical fact for you. Nubian river festivals, like this one, were often linked to harvest cycles, praising the river for its annual flood, which kept their farms alive. Without the Nile, these people would be left with nothing but a sea of desert and regret. There's a fringe story you overhear from a wrinkled old man with a basket of blue lotus petals. He claims, half whisper, half boast, that if you sneak a lock of hair onto the raft, the river gods will recognize you and spare your loved ones from disease. Of course, no one dares test it these days, in case the gods come collecting with a bit more enthusiasm than expected. You shift to another group of villagers, drawn by the colorful lanterns they're making. They've dipped their candles in crushed pomegranate skin, giving them a reddish tint that glows like small hearts in the dusk. The color is stunning against the dark water, and it pulls the eye, almost hypnotic. One small boy, eyes huge and voice shaking, worries that a crocodile will mistake it for blood. His uncle reassures him, dryly, that the crocs are already stuffed from all the dumb fishermen who fell in earlier in the year. Out across the river, some candles already look like drifting stars, merging with their reflections until you can't tell flame from water. They blur, blend, and fade until they seem to belong to another world entirely. The night deepens, swallowing your sense of time. It's so easy to believe in ghosts here. So easy to believe that somewhere in those cold, black depths, someone is listening. The air smells of smoke, sweet and vegetal, and you catch your first whiff of honey cakes being unwrapped nearby. The kids dive for them, sticky fingers grabbing, giggling, and still darting back to peek at their candles. You can practically hear the sugar rush kick in. One girl, no more than 8, ties a thin scrap of linen around her candle's raft. She whispers into the linen before letting it float away, and her father doesn't interrupt. Whatever she told that cloth, it is between her and the Nile. You sense it, a hush, a boundary no grown-up would dare cross. You follow the current with your eyes, noticing the gentle pull of the river. It does not roar or churn. Instead, it tugs with quiet certainty, a reminder of its patience. Candles vanish one by one around a bend, like thoughts dissolving into sleep. And as you watch, you wonder, is the Nile really a river or a giant living memory? Historians still debate whether its rituals, its festivals, and its myths served more to unify Nubians politically or simply to comfort their anxious hearts. Either way, you feel the hush deepen, a sacred pause that no king, no conqueror has ever fully broken. And you stand there, candlelight dancing on your skin, feeling like you might belong to this night, just for a moment. The hush of night thickens, as if someone laid a velvet cloth across the world. You walk along the water's edge, sandals squishing into mud that's cool against your toes. Ahead, you spot a gathering of priests, their linen robes almost glowing under the moon. They move with that deliberate calm you'd expect from people who claim to speak for the river gods. A few carry copper bowls, catching what little light filters down, and others dip their hands into the Nile, sprinkling water over the waiting families. The sprinkling is no random splash. It's a blessing meant to soothe the water gods and keep the Nile in good humor. There's a quiet tension to it, though. You sense that the people fear angering the river just as much as they hope to please it. One priest, older than a granite statue, raises a clay jug and pours a thin stream of beer into the current. The beer spreads in soft ripples, sweetening the water as an offering. Historians still argue whether the beer was really for the gods, or if the priests just liked an excuse to share around with the river. A faint drum beat pulses behind you, slow and steady, like the Nile's own heartbeat. The chanting rises, a low rumble that matches the roll of water against the shore. You see tiny lotus buds floating along with the candles now, drifting lazily. Someone believes they help guide the spirits, pointing the way home. It's a fringe custom, but one held close by those who have lost many loved ones to the deep. You inch closer to the circle of priests, trying not to draw attention, though it's hard to stay invisible with your mouth half open in wonder. They sing lines about gods whose names twist the tongue: Khnum, Hapi, Sobek, and you catch glimpses of half-remembered myth. Khnum, the ram-headed god, is said to shape children on his potter's wheel. Hapi, that blue-skinned bringer of floods, keeps the harvest alive. And Sobek, yes, crocodile-headed Sobek, lurks in the stories, fierce and hungry, said to rise from muddy banks to protect or punish, depending on whether you remembered to light a candle. You get a faint shiver at that. Candle or no candle, Sobek seems like the sort of god you'd want to keep on your side. A boy near you tries to pronounce Khnum and gets tangled, bursting into giggles. His mother shoos him quiet, with a look that could fell a grown man. Even in a sleepy festival, parental side-eye holds mighty power. The priests finish their chants and step aside, letting families come closer to set their candles adrift. The river accepts them, candle after candle, sometimes snuffing one out, sometimes letting the flame survive against all odds. That unpredictability fascinates you, as if the Nile itself has opinions about who gets a wish granted. A joke you overhear makes you grin. The river's moodier than a cat in the summer heat. Past the priests, you spot a group of young men huddled together, half excited, half afraid. They're preparing a raft bigger than the rest, piled with flowers, bits of bread, and even a small clay doll. Their uncle explains it's for a friend who drowned last year, swept away by a bad current during fishing season. They believe sending a large offering might coax his spirit back toward peace. It's heartbreaking, and historians still debate whether these rites ever truly laid spirits to rest or just soothed the living. You watch the doll catch the candlelight, casting a small, sad shadow across the water. The uncle steadies the raft, says a few soft words, and gives it a gentle push. It rocks, teeters, but then glides out into the night. The boy who lost his friend cries a little, shoulders shaking, but no one scolds him. This is the moment to cry. A gust of wind suddenly flickers the candle, and you hold your breath. Somehow the flame survives. It feels like a triumph, one small, fragile hope refusing to be drowned. You move on, the night air now heavy with dampness. The Nile's constant sigh fills your ears, a watery hush that feels ancient enough to have been there since the dawn of breath itself. You pause, gazing at the tiny lights clustering downstream. They look like a city afloat, an impossible city made of wishes. Some villagers believe that if your candle floats far enough without going out, your loved one's spirit will be reborn in the next life with blessings piled high. But if the flame dies too soon, well, you might want to watch your back for a while. Nubian superstition does not play around. A priest steps near you, copper bowl in hand, and gives you a little splash of Nile water. It's shockingly cold, like a liquid slap to the brain, and you're told it means good luck. You manage a shaky smile, trying not to show how wide-eyed you really are. Another fringe tidbit drifts to you from an old woman behind a pile of reeds. She claims that certain crocodiles are trained by the priests to keep fish from stealing the offerings, like scaled, scaly security guards. Sure, it sounds bonkers, but the sparkle in her eye makes you wonder if she half believes it herself. The river's current grows stronger as the night deepens, pulling candles steadily onward. It feels unstoppable, that flow, the same power that carved Egypt's empire out of dry stone. You catch the faint smell of fish. Yep, the Nile still supports its fishermen even tonight, and the sweetness of incense mixing in. Your ears pick up a change in the chanting, more rhythmic, more lively. The festival is shifting gears, moving from solemn prayers to a kind of watery blessing that's half party, half ritual. It's hard not to sway with the rhythm. The priests begin to clap in time, coaxing even the shyest children to join in. The breeze freshens, playful now, teasing candles into little dances on their reed beds. A child yells something about seeing a fish nibbling a flower off a raft, and a grown-up answers that the fish must want its own wish granted too. You laugh because that feels true in its own odd way. Everything here, fish, candles, flowers, humans, belongs to the Nile, and the Nile belongs to them. It's a living relationship, equal parts generosity and dread, a dance between hunger and gratitude. The night stretches on, more candles floating downstream, more prayers dissolving into the cool dark. You step back, breathing deeply, letting the smells, sounds, and watery shimmer of the festival anchor you in this place. Somewhere in that river, you sense a mystery that no modern tourist brochure could ever fully explain. And as you gaze across the black sweep of the Nile, you think, maybe that's the point. The festival's rhythm shifts again, subtly, the way a lullaby might slip into a love song. You wander past a small crowd clustered near a grove of sycamore fig trees, where couples linger with candles poised between them. The river here widens, calmer, as if kindly holding its breath for these young lovers. Each pair carries a matched set of candles, the reeds braided together so that the flames float side by side. You watch as they step forward, cheeks glowing with embarrassment and a hopeful spark, eyes darting to see if others are watching. They kneel on the bank, gently placing their double flame boats onto the water's surface, hands almost trembling. The candles begin their slow voyage downstream, flames bobbing together. It's a test. If the twin lights stay side by side, that means the couple's love will last, strong and harmonious. But if one flame strays, or worse, goes out, well, let's just say there will be some side-eye thrown over breakfast tomorrow. Historians still argue whether this practice came from Nubian marriage customs, or if it was a later addition copied from Egyptian wedding blessings. Either way, the symbolism is powerful enough to give anyone butterflies. One young woman laughs nervously as her candle raft wobbles in the eddies, sending one flame swaying away. Her boyfriend bites his lip and makes a joke about blaming the fish. It's tender, awkward, and very human. A girl nearby claps when her candles keep together, while her friend rolls her eyes and teases. Enjoy it while it lasts. The reeds along the bank lean in with the breeze, whispering secrets you wish you could translate. The Nile watches all of this, dark and huge, as though it has seen so many love stories that it can barely bother to comment anymore. A firefly darts over the water, briefly adding its own spark to the night. You get closer, and the smell of lotus petals wafts up again, fresh and faintly sweet, Someone has sprinkled them onto the love candles for extra luck. You hear a grandmother muttering that lotus means rebirth, not romance. But hey, in festival season, anything goes. A group of girls giggle as they try to sneak their candles downstream, pretending to test a crush's faithfulness without letting him know. Teenage drama is eternal, even with a crocodile lurking around the corner. A fringe belief tickles your ear from a passing gossip. Some Nubians swear that if your candle flame stays close to another's for 3 bends of the river, your souls are permanently braided, whether you want them to be or not. Romantic or horrifying, depending on who you're tied to, I suppose. The soft drumming pulses again in the background, steadier now, a heartbeat carrying you along. You pause to watch 2 elders, long married by the looks of their wrinkled hands, launching their joined candles with slow, measured care. There's a hush as their raft drifts out, the flames steady and loyal, and the onlookers sigh in relief when they stay together. Love, tested by river, earns a different weight than love merely promised in words. A cool wind snakes around you, carrying the scent of distant cooking fires. Someone is roasting fish, and your stomach grumbles in protest. You promise yourself to find a bite later, but for now, you stay anchored in this moment of floating hope. Beyond the older couples, a small group of priests moves between the lovers, blessing each pair of candles with a splash of Nile water and a whispered wish for fertility. You wonder how many new babies owe their existence to these quiet ceremonies. How many ancient families were built on nothing more than a steady flame and a river's goodwill. Historians still debate if these fertility rituals were separate from the candle launches or tied directly into the same night of memory and romance. Either way, it's impossible to ignore how love clings to even the most solemn festival. A young man, fidgety and red-faced, offers his sweetheart a clay amulet shaped like a fish. Fish, you learn, symbolize abundance, always good for a wedding plan. He slips it onto the edge of their candle raft, and they send it out with a shaky laugh. If you ever doubted a human's capacity for cheesy romance, here's your proof. Fish-shaped jewelry floating toward the afterlife. You shift away a bit, giving them space, stepping around a muddy dip where kids still play with their own unlit reeds. The children, freed from grown-up concerns, have made little boat battles, crashing them together with whoops of joy, while their parents scold them not to disturb the real candle launches. One boy pretends he's a crocodile god, chomping a reed raft in half with a delighted roar. His friend shrieks, "No, Sobek, no," before collapsing in giggles. You smile, because even here, maybe especially here, love and play live side by side. That's how people have kept their balance since the river first began to flow. Another couple approaches, dressed simply but clearly devoted, heads bent close in whispered talk. Their candles hold strong as they drift out, and you catch a hint of their wish: a new home, enough food for their children, and peace after a hard year. It's heartbreakingly modest and deeply universal. The river's current takes their raft, rocking it gently, as if the Nile itself is cradling their dream. You can't help rooting for them, even though you know the river is a fickle matchmaker. The night grows deeper still, shadows lengthening, candles flowing past like stars adrift in a black sea. A coolness rises off the water, brushing your arms, and you feel the hush settle again, as if even the frogs have decided to pause. You leave the lovers to their river, carrying away a strange sense of hope that somewhere in this dance of light, their wishes might come true, and yours might too, if you dared to whisper it to the water. You follow the drifting candle pairs until the river bends once more, where the gentle festival mood picks up a playful note. Here, kids run wild along the reeds, kicking up mud, laughing, and occasionally shrieking loud enough to send a flock of water birds into panicked flight. The dusk has settled fully now, purple and deep, stars trying to muscle through the night haze. Lantern after lantern slips down the current, flames wobbling in a breeze that feels like it was invited by the river gods themselves. You catch sight of a pack of boys daring one another to get as close to the water as they can without falling in. They teeter on the bank, toes hanging over the edge, testing courage and gravity in equal measure. One girl, with a toothy grin, challenges them to hold out their candle rafts the longest before letting go. A game of nerves you'd think was invented yesterday. Someone jokes that the Nile has more patience for candles than for children. A bit farther along, you spot a priest gently scolding two kids for throwing pebbles near a candle launch. He warns them that splashing the water could upset the spirits of drowned ancestors returning home tonight. The kids freeze, big-eyed, because, let's be honest, that's a spectacularly effective way to get children to behave. Whether those ancestors actually mind a splash or two is still up for debate among the grown-ups, but no one argues with a priest in festival season. You pause to watch a brother and sister carefully balance their candle on a thick knot of reeds. The boy adds a blue lotus petal for good luck, while the girl tries to tie on a tiny clay cat figurine. You wonder if the cat is meant to guard the candle or just look cute. Their father comes over, fussing about how easy it is for a crocodile to mistake such things for food, and you grin at the half-serious scolding. Nubians have been worrying about crocodiles since day one, and historians still argue whether crocodile attacks were common enough to shape festivals or just overhyped to scare people away from dangerous waters. Speaking of crocodiles, a roar of laughter breaks out nearby as a teenager jumps up from the bank, yelling that he saw a pair of yellow eyes in the reeds. Everyone screams, then dissolves into giggles when a fish flops into view instead. The kids chase each other through the rushes, shrieking, "Sobek is coming!" with that half-terrified delight that only children can muster. You step a little aside to catch your breath, feeling the festival's pulse steady against your ribs. The grown-ups have settled on woven mats, sharing trays of honeyed dates and roasted fish, sipping beer out of rough clay jugs. Someone passes you a small flatbread, still warm from a cooking fire, and you tear off a piece, surprised at how sweet and nutty it tastes. All around, parents try to keep an eye on their roaming children while also managing to relax, a balance that would impress even the most seasoned modern parent. Someone jokes that the children are the Nile's best entertainment, and it's hard to argue with that. A fringe tidbit drifts through your ear as you rest under a half-dead palm tree. An old auntie tells a hushed story of a legendary crocodile, so old and so revered it would escort children's rafts safely through the night. If a candle survived until dawn, she claimed, it meant that old Croc had taken a personal liking to you. Of course, historians say there's no proof crocodiles were ever trained, but the idea is weirdly comforting. The night sounds shift again, insects buzzing in a steady chorus, frogs adding their croaky percussion, and the occasional splash of fish breaking the river's surface. You follow a group of kids who have left their candles behind and are now daring each other to jump across a small inlet. Their laughter is bright, reckless, echoing through the reeds like a joyful rebellion against bedtime. One boy pauses in mid-run, breathless, and stares at a candle far out in the water. You see him go quiet, thoughtful, as though remembering someone he lost. The moment passes as fast as it came, and he's back to shrieking and chasing his sister. You wonder if the festival was designed precisely for that split second where a child might remember, even while they run and play. You crouch down, fingers brushing the soft river mud, and look out at the flickering glow of dozens of drifting lights. Each one carries a family's hope, a wish, maybe a farewell. It's humbling, like seeing people's deepest fears and dreams set loose where they cannot be controlled. The kids keep returning to the water's edge, dropping off new candles whenever they remember the serious side of the night. Some even wave, as if expecting the candle to wave back. And for a heartbeat, it almost feels like it does. A group of older boys, trying to look far too mature for their own good, talk about how they'll someday guide the candle launches themselves, standing next to priests with copper bowls and serious faces. One of them brags about wrestling a crocodile when he's older. Another says he'll marry a river goddess instead. Their bold words drift off on the night breeze, half sincere, half ridiculous, and you can't help but chuckle. You turn back toward the festival center, where more candles are being prepped, stacked on mats, delicate as eggshells. A few children help their parents with the wicks, carefully dipping them in oil. It's a rare moment of quiet focus among the chaos. Their tiny hands move so earnestly that you almost wish you could freeze the scene. One night of perfect, shimmering tradition, where even the loudest child falls into a hush. You move past them, drawn back to the river's edge. The water is still pulling steadily downstream, carrying dreams, carrying laughter, carrying every memory you might wish to forget or cherish. The festival belongs to everyone, but in these brief moments, it feels especially made for the children who will one day tell these stories again, shaping them with their own half-true embellishments. Somewhere, a candle flickers and nearly goes out, only to recover at the last instant, flame dancing tall and defiant. The kids cheer as though the candle itself has passed some heroic test. You smile because you believe it too. Sometimes hope is nothing more than a single stubborn spark refusing to die. You follow the music that's begun to thrum more insistently from deeper within the festival. The soft drumbeat has grown bolder, joined now by lutes and rattles, weaving together a melody that seems to ride the breeze itself. You draw closer, drawn by that pulse, and see a group of musicians setting up on a flat reed mat laid over the sand. They sit cross-legged, faces intent, plucking out rhythms older than memory, sending their notes rippling over the water like shimmering fish scales. Nearby, festival goers gather in loose circles, hands clapping along, some humming, some letting their shoulders sway to the rhythm. The music becomes another offering, no less sacred than the candles, just tuned to a different sense. You spot one older man cradling a battered drum, its skin dark with the oil of many hands over the years, beating out a pattern so steady it feels like the Nile's own secret voice. A fringe tidbit floats to you from a beaming uncle who insists the drum's sound keeps away mischievous river spirits who would otherwise steal the candle rafts. Sure, that might be superstition layered on top of tradition, but it's also a perfect excuse to get lost in the beat. Historians still argue whether the festival's music was purely a folk tradition or whether it had formal ritual importance in the old temples of Nubia. The truth, you sense, probably lives somewhere between devotion and jam session. You close your eyes, letting the sound wash over you. The mournful twang of a lute string, the pop of a simple clay rattle, the layered clapping building like an incoming wave. You smell sweet incense drifting past, mixing with the earthy funk of river mud and crushed reeds. Someone passes you a clay cup of beer, the foam thick and heady, and you take a small sip, letting its bitterness anchor you, even as the music tries to float you away. A group of teenagers dances in a loose circle, their feet scuffing up little puffs of sand, while younger kids stand on the sidelines, copying the steps, with all the sincerity of kids everywhere. Their movements are clumsy but joyful, arms flying in all directions, as if the night itself had gotten inside their bones. You watch a woman swirl a woven basket above her head, sending a rain of flower petals spiraling into the air, catching on the candlelight like tiny embers. The petals fall among the dancers, who laugh and scatter, some scooping them up again for luck. Closer to the river, a priest begins a call and response chant, a half song, half prayer that builds until even those on the farthest fringe of the festival join in. You repeat the chant under your breath without thinking, feeling a strange power in its syllables. There's a unity to this moment, a living heartbeat shared by dozens of strangers, drawn together by music, flame, and river. The rhythm slows now, becoming more hypnotic, as though it wants to cradle everyone to sleep. You catch sight of a mother rocking her baby in time to the drum, and for a second, you imagine this lullaby reaching all the way across centuries, soothing children since long before there were bedtime stories as you know them. The Nile's current glints in the starlight, a ribbon of night reflecting all these tiny flames. Some of the candle rafts have been caught in swirling eddies, dancing together, breaking apart, then drifting off again, as if choreographed by the river itself. The candles spin, wobble, then straighten, a pattern of chaos and calm that mirrors the festival's own wild grace. A quick joke rings out from a young man in a bright sash, teasing his friend for dancing so badly that even the crocodiles would laugh. His friend huffs and tries harder, feet tangling hilariously in the sand. You can't help but chuckle, because no matter how ancient the setting, people still roast each other for clumsy dance moves. Off to one side, a group of older women with hair braided in intricate patterns starts a slower circle dance, shuffling steps in perfect rhythm, their arms linked loosely. You realize these moves aren't random. They mimic water-drawing motions, a living echo of how they carry jars from the river every day. In their dance, you glimpse the poetry of survival, carrying water, carrying life, carrying the future. A fringe rumor you overhear makes you raise your eyebrows. Apparently, if you dance with enough heart during this festival, The river gods will grant you better luck with your next harvest. Considering how hard farming is on these banks, you'd dance too if it meant one less drought. You shift position, feeling the sand cooling now that the evening deepens. The breeze grows gentler, fragrant with smoke from cooking fires where festival goers warm flatbreads and roast fish. Someone tosses a fishbone to a curious dog, nosing around the edges of the festival, and the pup darts away, tail wagging. The music keeps its steady heartbeat, sometimes breaking for a storyteller to call out a line of myth, then folding right back into the chorus. It's a woven tapestry of rhythm and tale, you realize. No single note stands alone. You take a moment to glance up at the stars. They look impossibly crisp now, scattered like polished stones, and you wonder how many people down the centuries have stood right here, hearing these same drums, tasting the same Nile-heavy air, hoping their candles found a gentle current. The festival is a soft rebellion against the shortness of life, a way of telling the night, we are still here. As another verse rises, you join the clapping, almost without thinking. Your palms sting from the force of it, but you don't stop, because in that instant, it feels like your heart has learned the rhythm of the Nile itself, and it would be a shame to lose that beat too soon. The music fades a little as you drift back toward the quieter parts of the riverbank, where the festival seems to breathe between heartbeats. Here, away from the dancing and laughter, villagers whisper stories in tight knots, voices dropping low as the night deepens. You slip closer, curious, careful not to disturb them. An old woman sits with her knees drawn up, eyes focused on the drifting candles, and tells the group around her that the flames are guiding souls tonight, spirits who never made it home, lost to the river's hunger. These small fires, she says, are lanterns showing the drowned a path back to loved ones, or to whatever peace waits on the other side. A boy nearby frowns, asking if that means ghosts might follow them home. The woman taps his forehead with a gnarled finger and laughs, saying, "Only if you forget to welcome them." A chill races down your arms, and you find yourself glancing at the water with new caution. It's easy to believe in spirits here, with the reeds rustling like whispered warnings, and the river moving in its slow, relentless pull. Historians still argue whether the festival's candle launches were purely about honoring ancestors, or if there was a deeper belief that these fires could literally steer lost souls away from haunting the living. Either way, no one wants to risk ignoring a tradition that might save them a sleepless night. You watch as another candle raft drifts out, flame steady as a heartbeat. A teenage girl ties a lock of hair to the raft's base, a hush falling over the onlookers. The old woman nods with grave approval, saying that this will make the ancestors recognize her, like a name tag across worlds. There's something raw and vulnerable in that gesture, the sense of wanting to be known, even in death. Nearby, a cluster of men talk in hushed voices about a cousin lost to the river 2 seasons ago. They're sending a candle tonight with a piece of his old fishing net wrapped around it, hoping he finds rest. They joke weakly that if the net catches any other ghosts on the way, they'll welcome them too. It's a thin joke, and you sense the grief behind it, like a bruise that never quite heals. A fringe tale bubbles up from a girl squatting by the water's edge. She claims that some candles, if left to drift alone long enough, can attract river spirits who might then grant a wish. If you're brave enough to stand by the water and wait for them to answer. The others laugh, but they glance at the water afterward, wary. You can practically see them weighing their courage. The night air grows cooler, heavy with river scent and the faint sting of wood smoke. You breathe in that cocktail of fragrances, a strange mix of fear and comfort. The villagers keep talking, stories flowing as freely as the current. They swap ghost tales the way modern people might swap urban legends, layering them with warnings, laughter, and a dash of better safe than sorry. A grandmother with deep smile lines insists her own mother once saw a drowned fisherman's ghost standing by the river, waiting for his candle to guide him onward. The villagers lean in closer, captivated, and just like that, the festival shifts from playful to profound. There is something deeply human in the urge to believe that no one, no matter how lost, is left wandering forever. You pick your way to the edge of a small inlet, reeds brushing your shins. The candles there seem to dance more quietly, their flames almost polite. You kneel, letting your fingertips trail in the water, wondering who these lights